Welcome. All right, here we are with lesson 10 from quarter three. And this will be May the 15th, I believe, Sunday, May the 15th. Um, and this is one of my favorite passages of scripture to study. Um, Acts chapter 8, Philip and the eunuch. And man, there's just so much here. So awesome to study how Philip does his thing. Really cool to see and understand the ramifications of what Philip has done here, and how basically he has enabled the gospel to go someplace that maybe he never thought that it would or could go, simply by being obedient to God's leading in his life. And man, so ripe with awesome stuff here. So you've got this story of Philip, and I love the fact that they tell it from beginning to end here. In fact, they're even going to bring up the fact that as Philip moves on, and as we move on through Acts, that Philip becomes known as Philip the evangelist. How awesome would that be, to be known by your friends as John the evangelist, or whatever, the faithful, or whatever that. I mean, it's just so cool. So couple things there. Just as Philip leaves the comfort of Jerusalem, they do a great job of talking about how persecution sort of pushes everyone towards this. And it's very cool to see how what the world meant for evil, God took and used for good. The persecution of the church allowed it to explode. And we need to remember that. We're in some difficult days in our own history, I believe. And we need to remember that in fact, these times of lean and need and persecution actually have always brought out the best in the gospel and the best in Christianity. And so we need to remember that. That's what's happening here. Persecution is mounting, and the gospel is thriving. It's not wilting as they thought that it would. It's thriving, and that's a pretty huge thing to push into as far as students go, because we get in our experiential culture, if it hurts, it must be bad. In this case, the growing pains of the gospel were all good. They all benefited the gospel. So Philip here, first of all, he goes to Samaria. They hated those people, and yet he was willing to go to share. He left the revival in the city to go and follow the Spirit out to the desert, where he didn't know he was going to run into this Ethiopian eunuch who served the queen in Ethiopia. He was just obedient. That's a pretty huge thing. And then just the incredible knowledge that when we are obedient, God takes something that seems so simple, like, oh, yeah, I shared from Isaiah the gospel of Christ, and this man trusted Christ and was baptized, and then he went on his way. I don't know what happened to him. Well, what happened to him was he took the gospel to northern Africa, someplace where it had never been before, and we are pretty certain via history that this man, literally, may have been one of the very first Christians in that part of the world. And so we never know what we're doing. We never know the ripple effect that we have when we share Christ with people in our lives. I am so amazed when I think about when we pour into lives of teenagers and they grow up and they become leaders in their own churches, and the impact that they're having. The realization here is, teachers, is that some of that is what you poured into them. Some of that is what you instilled in them, that is allowing them to go out and have the same effect on other people who are having the same effect on other people. So keep doing what you're doing. Plug through. You may feel like they're never listening. You may feel like you're talking to a brick wall, that they never remember what you say. And some of that is true. But the truth of the matter is they were retaining way more than you think, and you're having way bigger impact than you think. So not only is this a great message for our students, it's a great message for us. It's a great message for you. So internalize it. Thank you for what you're doing. You don't see the ripples all the time, but they're there and you're making a difference. So keep teaching, keep studying, and thank you for what you do.